Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Big Deck Energy. I'm your host, Allie. Oh, wait. I'm Mitch. Allie can't be here this week due to everything ramping back in our state, ramping back up. So She's got work, unfortunately. Couldn't get out of it. So you are stuck here with myself and Skala.
I am still Skala, yeah.
Still Skala over here. Skala, why don't you do our social media stuff?
Yes, you could follow us on Twitter at BigDeckEnergy_, Instagram, Big Deck Energy Podcasts, SoundCloud, Apple Music, Big Deck Energy, and YouTube.
And OnlyFans.
And OnlyFans.
So this week we don't really have anything to review.
No.
Obviously for the same reasons. Everybody's kind of ramping back up from quarantine. Hard to make the time to make it work, but you know what? Yep. We're going to keep it loose this episode. We're going to talk about a little bit of work-life balance, which is, kind of thematic for us this week. Yeah.
Yep, and outside of that, we're just freestyling.
We're just keeping it loose.
This is what happens when Allie's not here.
Yep.
So.
It's your fault, Allie.
Yeah. So I guess we can get right into it.
Yeah.
So start off with work-life balance. I'm actually came straight from work today, our first day open.
I literally picked you up from work about 25 minutes ago.
And it's daunting. It was a little stressful. I kept checking the time to make sure, like, how much time do I have? Do I have to go over anything? Stuff like that. But work-life balance is extremely important. I'm lucky that I have a boss that understands work-life balance really well. I mean, he has a family, so he gets it. So, even when I think I knew I was coming back like a week ahead of time, and he was just I was like, look, my availability is a little different now because I've always had open availability. I was like, I just need Wednesdays off so I could do this, and he was completely fine with it. But it's extremely important because one thing quarantine I realized was I didn't have anything really else but work, like when work stopped, my life kind of stopped. I had to start picking up new hobbies, and I'm like,
it was interesting from my perspective because I was essential.
Yeah.
So I didn't I didn't have to leave work. You know what I mean? So it was, you guys all were kind of like losing yourselves a little bit there for a minute. You guys were kind of going crazy a little bit. For the audience, we used to work together. And
yes, very long time ago.
That place where I used to work and you still work is crazy. We're not going to mention it, but it's tough to have a hobby and have interests outside of that job. When that job is like you could be working at 7 a.m. on Monday to 5 p.m. and then on Wednesday 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. Like,
yep. Sometimes you're not even getting paid for it, depending on how much work you have,
That ain't right.
Yeah. But like I said, I actually got lucky with the past two bosses I've had. They both really understand and care about work-life balance. One of them was my mentor, and he would frequently ask me, like, hey, like, how you doing outside of here? How are things going? How's the family? And that's important, right? I remember at the building we worked at together, it was very different. It was kind of like, can you come in early today? This and that.
Yeah.
It's like, I know this day is not in your availability, but can you make it in? It's really important.
Getting those texts on your day off like, hey, you want to come in anyway? Because we're getting killed in here. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was one of those things like you could say no, but you knew if you said no, your schedule the next week was going to be trash.
Then you're the guy that said no. Like,
yeah,
shit.
And everybody at the place was going to know that you said no.
Exactly. Going forward, this isn't going to be, just so everybody knows, this isn't going to be that a constant sort of thing. I think Allie's boss is going to be pretty cool with her getting off the nights for us to record. It's just that this first week is like...
Yeah, everything was short notice. Yeah.
We were out on a Monday night, I think it was. And we had gone out, and around 10 o'clock, Allie got a phone call that was like, can you come to work tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Like, that's how fast it ramped up, There was an announcement, a phone call, and boom, like, you got 6 hours of sleep, and then you got to go to work. Like, it was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was definitely rough, and I think everybody kind of got the same situation. It's been hard because we put so much time, all of us, including you, still working the entire time into, you know, the burning table and getting the podcast started and back up on its feet. That, you know, it was kind of like a wake up call when I got that call, and I was just like, all right, how are we going to manage to do this?
Plus 40 hours of work during, you know, so, or 40 plus really.
Yep. But, you know, we have to find a way. The same way, I mean, Mitch this entire time has been working and still doing the burning table, helping with the podcast and everything. So,
you know, it's a little bit easier on my side of the spectrum because I don't have that unpredictability in my job. I go to work at the same time every day, and I have the same 2 days off every week.
Yeah, that's
I imagine most people have that. You know, you guys just work at a place that is just like hectic.
Yeah, every week your schedule's different.
Different days off, different times. Like,
yep.
God bless, because.
Yeah, but just going off of work-life balance. I mean, like I said, I think it is extremely important to kind of find that, and for a lot of people, especially at the place where I worked, I don't think a lot of people have work-life, and you don't realize until you don't have work anymore, you know, because your friends become the people you work with, and then, you know, even when you're off, sometimes you end up at the place you work or hanging out or talking about the place you work at.
Yeah.
That, you know, I found like maybe after a month of quarantine, I was like, I have nothing to talk about with anybody. I don't know what to do with any of the time.
Staring at the mirror, like trying to have a conversation, like,
you know,
hey.
And a couple really good things came out of it. I started reading more again, you know. But then, you know, it's time to go back to work, and then I start feling bad because I'm like, I'm not reading as much as I was.
Now you're dropping the constructive hobbies that you found.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, all of this came out kind of as a result of the quarantine, really, kind of. You know? The burning table, and then back onto this podcast. We wouldn't have had the time to do this if it wasn't
exactly. For that. I think you were actually the first one. You've been bringing up us bringing the podcast back for a while.
I was trying to get you guys to do it because I loved that first episode.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, with the time in quarantine, we decided to do it, and, you know, there's no turning back now.
Yeah.
Just going to keep going.
Just keep going. Try to do one a week. Why not? So what are some, you know, going forward, do you have any kind of like methods you're going to use to kind of keep yourself balanced? You know, you said you got a good boss, and that's like 90% of it who's going to, you know, give you the time off that you want. But like, you got anything like you want to make sure you do in your life, part of that work-life balance?
For me, it's definitely honestly probably continuing gaming. Like, it's going to be harder now for us to like get together and do it, but even if we're doing it like after the podcast like we usually do, as long as I'm doing something like that, and I think if I stick with this, at least, you know, like, because obviously there's a lot of work that goes into this as well, but this is fun to me, you know. It's kind of, I'm even right now, like, it's
just shooting,
it's relaxing. Exactly. It's relaxing. So that's definitely something, getting back in shape, losing all the quarantine weight. You know, because I definitely, you know, once quarantine started, I was like,
one of these years it'll happen.
Yeah, exactly. I was ready. I was like, you know, I'm going to go in straight like prison mode. I'm doing 100 push-ups a day. Maybe it lasted for a month, and then I realized I couldn't cook, and I Uber Eats like 3 meals a day.
Uber Eats made so much money during quarantine. You know they did.
Uber Eats, Walmart, Amazon. If you bought stock in there before quarantine, you're good. Oh my god, I saw
this one picture of this guy crying, eating food, and it's like, that's me eating my $25 dinner that I paid $50 for on Uber Eats. Like, I know that
yeah, feeling. It's so true. And, you know, I think it didn't help, you know, we had the extra like 600 coming in for, I was like, I'm making better, which is also ridiculous to me, I'm making better money now than I was making actually working.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm not saying I'm not grateful for it, but, you know, it just, something felt wrong about it. Even because early on, I didn't get unemployment right away because I had so much. I maxed out my sick time and vacation time, and I had to use that first.
Those freaking vultures made you use the vacation time.
Yeah, I respected it. I was like, it's a smart move, but like, I almost got away with it. So yeah, I had to use that first. And, you know, I'm hearing about like people who work for me or under me making more money than I was making at the time just because of the extra 600. But, you know, back at work now, and
gonna shift that work-life balance into like work balance for a while.
Exactly,
bro.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, it's so sad that we're just trying to like, how, like, I'm trying to figure out how are we going to make time to play a board game every week? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just think about that. Like,
it is, if you really think about it.
It's like,
yeah,
I don't have time to play one board game in the 7 days that are available. Like,
yeah. And I don't think it's something unique to my career either. You know, I think for a lot of people, that's kind of what it is. Like, just to do, even if it's like, oh, I want to go out one night. Well, I guess obviously before quarantine, you know, you kind of had to plan around it and figure out like, all right, you know, and even with your friends. And I think that's the reason why a lot of your friends become people you work with, because you kind of know when you're working, you have the same schedules, you understand. Once you know, if like your friends in high school, once you all go separate paths, you have different jobs. It's completely different.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Plus, like, it's fun. It's, you know, you're trying to plan something out. Like, okay, on Sunday we're gonna do this. Well, you say that on Monday, and then you work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you're like, oh man, I gotta get up and go do something now. Like,
yeah, and you just want to relax.
Yeah.
And I'm terrible with that. Like, I'm that person that cancels like an hour before, just because I'm like, I'll do it. I'll get up, and then just, you know, I fall asleep. I wake up, and I'm like, I do not want to go out.
I've been known to ghost.
Yeah,
I've been known to ghost.
Me and Mitch are both ghosts.
Like, oh man, that phone's ringing. If I look at it, then I gotta answer it. But if I don't look at it,
exactly,
I go back to sleep.
Yep, that's why I keep my red receipts off. Nobody knows. Nobody knows if I saw their text messages.
See, I have an Android, so like,
oh, there you go.
Anyway.
Yep. Yeah, but I would say the other thing I was gonna bring up. I finally found out, I think I texted this in our group chat, why I hate orcs so much.
Oh, okay.
In comparison to like elves and dwarves.
Let's go into this. Why do you hate orcs so much?
So to me, before I even got into D&D and everything, dwarves and elves were kind of, I understood them because they're a part of Norse mythology.
Okay.
Like, they're already built into it. Orcs, the first time, my first experience with orcs was
probably Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, exactly. So that just felt more, as ridiculous as it just felt more fantasy than than elves,
like
and
made
dwarves
up,
did.
like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I finally put my, because you know, once I brought it up, I kept thinking about it. I was like, why do I hate orcs so much? Like, why is it such a...
I don't know if orcs are like a creation of Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. I mean, they might be. I don't know. I don't know if they have roots in
maybe
other mythologies.
Maybe there is. I didn't hear about them until that. So I think that's kind of where that comes from.
So you're like, oh, this is like fake. This is like fake fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. And I realize how ridiculous that sounds now.
Yeah,
it's just like, but you know, I read a lot of Norse mythology, so like elves and dwarves and stuff like that. It's built into it. So, you know, but I see how stupid that would sound if I was just like, oh, orcs are stupid, but you know, I'll play a dwarf. Like, I'm fine with playing a dwarf.
Like,
yep.
What? Yeah. Judging the guy who plays an orc because you're gonna play a dwarf. Like,
yeah.
That's
I see it now. And the other funny part is I loved Lord of the Rings.
I mean, who doesn't, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. I think it's just Lord of Orcs and D&D and like tabletop gaming. You know, I like the idea for a movie and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird to me. I never get into it. You
watch Critical Role?
Yeah, I have a lot of catching up to do.
What, season 2, the second campaign?
Yeah,
one of the characters. Yeah, Ford. He's a half orc.
Yeah,
and he's like so smooth and like like goes against type. Like, that's pretty cool. Like,
I think that's what it is too. I have an image of like, you know, orcs and like people who play orcs and how they play them. It just kind of always seems the same. But that's a good example. That's, you know, it's a different style. Yeah.
You know, Lord of the Rings is interesting because it's good.
Yeah.
And I know we were talking about this in the car before, but like, and everybody has already had their hot take about this in the last year. But a lot of our like fantasy gaming kind of like started with, at least between our group, started with us all realizing that like, oh yeah, we really like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Then we played the card game for like, oh my God, we used to Wednesday nights, right?
Yeah, full shifts. We were doing like 8-10 hours.
We would like show up at your building at like 9:00. You'd hide us in a closet with a table, and we'd set up all the like the play mats and everything, and we would just play for hours the Game of Thrones card game.
To tie into work-life balance. That's how we managed it back then.
That's how we found the balance.
Like, we met each other at work and we played there.
Yeah. So like, even if you had to close until 1 a.m., we could still play for another couple hours. Wendy's was right across the street. We could keep ourselves.
Oh yeah, we were good.
We keep ourselves fed.
We had the bar right there too. It was a nice setup.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. You know, did you get in Game of Thrones like when it first came out? It took me some time.
Oh, it took you some time?
Yeah.
Oh, I was there episode 1. I remember, I feel like such an ass because I remember I was in college and this guy I was friends with was like, bro, you need to read this book. It's so good. And I saw it and it had a sword on the cover and I was like, nah, I don't want to read that book. And I didn't even look at it. I was just like, no, you know what, bro? I'm good. I wasn't like, I was more interested in other things at the time.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember watching that first episode and, like, the title of the show, and I was like, is this that? And then I, like, messaged him, and I was like, oh, could have been on that train. Could have been one of those guys who was on the train early, like, I read the books, like.
I always wanted to be one of those. Yeah. Never had the opportunity.
Yeah. No, but I was there episode 1.
Yeah, I tried because all of my friends were like, bro, you got to watch it. You got to try it out. Mm-hmm. I watched the first 2 episodes and I was so confused that I was like, I can't keep up with this. Mm-hmm. Just because of the first episode, they introduced like 30 characters and stuff. Yeah, I was like, my memory is terrible. I'm not going to be able to remember all these people. But as it went on and I realized how popular it got, I was like, you know what? Let me get another try. And everybody told me, he's like, just try and get through the first season. Because I think by the time I watched it, it was already like it might have been season 3 or maybe like late season 2.
Okay.
So, I watched it and obviously eventually really got into it. It was amazing after that. I mean.
And then season 8.
Yeah. Even parts of season. There was just, I don't know.
Season 7 too. Really? I mean, if I'm being real, like, after what's his name died. Season 4. When everything kind of wrapped up at the end of season 4 where Jon killed, what's her name? Ygritte.
Yeah.
And the Red Viper died and Tyrion went across the sea.
That was it for me. When the Red Viper died, I was so mad. Because even, Martells were my people. Like that's, even because I got so into it that I ended up reading the books. And, the show really didn't do the Martells much justice. If you read the books,
they're excellent in the books.
Yeah,
the
they're amazing.
Yeah.
But, I still like them in the show. And it just... Once the Red Viper died, I was like, ugh.
Well, they got him right in the show. He might even be better in the show than he is in the 3rd book.
Yeah. I think that part's good. I just wish he was there for longer. That's what it was, Yeah. I mean, the episode where he died, it was amazing. I loved that episode, but it was hard for me. And then, Duran, they didn't really go into like his wits and his intelligence in the show,
and like,
that kind of bothered me.
They did that. They did that storyline dirty. I was watching YouTube and just doing like Game of Thrones videos. There's a YouTuber I really like, Alt Shift X, who does theories on Game of Thrones and stuff. And I came upon a video that was like all of the Red Viper scenes in season 4, and the video was only like 30-something minutes long.
That's crazy.
It's like he left that big of an impact on the show in that little amount of screen time. Like he feels like he's the main character of that season.
Yeah. I think some of that's attributed to the actor too. That actor is amazing. I forget his name, but he is amazing.
Nailed it. Yeah.
What else? He was in wasn't he in Mandalorian?
He's the Mandalorian. Yeah, he's Mando.
Yeah, he was an awesome actor. The character was awesome.
Pedro Pascal, I think his name is.
Yes, I think that's it.
Yeah. Oh man. But after that season, that show just went downhill.
It was rough. I saw where they were going with Danny, and I was like, okay, that's fine, but it just felt so rushed. And then the actual ending, Bran the Broken, I was like, all right, clearly you guys were too focused on Star Wars to finish this off right.
That's exactly what it is.
Which they didn't even end up doing Star Wars.
No, because end of Game of Thrones was so bad, the people who make Star Wars were like, yeah, we're going to keep you away from our shit. Like,
yeah, you know what? They deserve that.
They do. You know what it is? And this is honestly it. Like, obviously, it takes a lot of talent to make a good TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But they had the best source material.
Yeah.
And anytime that they kind of drifted away from it, it was for the worse. There were good scenes here and there that weren't from the books, but like any time they drifted away from it, it was for the worse.
Yeah, it definitely lost the intrigue and element of surprise too. I felt like I kept waiting to be surprised, and it just wasn't. When I was surprised, it was bad. it was because it didn't make sense, or it was just, you could tell they were just trying to end the show at that point. Oh, man. It was really rough.
There are those like There are times in your life where you lie to yourself and you're like, no, this is good. This is fine. I like this. Yep. I was totally doing that during season 8. I was like, no, it's fine. It's good. It's good. This is great. It's Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it'll get better. It'll,
they'll nail the ending. Oh yeah, this episode is so cool. Wait, no, it's not. I can't see anything. Like,
even the interview with the cast members before
they knew it was bad.
Yeah,
they knew it was bad.
I felt so bad for him because you knew people were gonna blame them and this and that. Yep. It has nothing to do with them, and they were trying so hard not to say how much they hated it.
Yep.
Oh, it was rough. I mean, so that leads me to the next thing. I see a lot of people talking about the spinoff they're doing. What is it? Is it Blood of the Dragon?
Blood of the Dragon, I think it's called.
Something like that. It's supposed to be like Aegon Targaryen.
Is it Aegon or is it the Dance of Dragons? I think it's Aegon. I think it's Aegon's Conquest.
I think it is. I think it's Aegon's Conquest. But I mean, the main thing, because I know originally there was going to be 2, and the other one was going to be based off of the Knights.
The Long Night, the original.
The Long Night, yeah. Which honestly, that's another thing about the show. All this build up for the Night King and the White Walkers, for them to be completely irrelevant.
I mean, like, what a good idea for 2 shows if you think about it. Like, Targaryens being cool and the Long Night that everybody wanted. Like, the 2 things that everybody wanted out of season 8 that you didn't give us. Okay, we're gonna make a whole new show about it with those 2 things.
Yep. It was just even that bothered me. And again, like, there was some great episodes, like the battle. What was it? The Long Night.
I mean, like, you couldn't see anything, which was
that was the only issue. Yeah,
now if you go watch it on like HBO Go or whatever it is, like,
they
it's better
right?
now. Yeah. And like, it's like a pretty episode. It looks cool, but then you're like, oh, Arya kills the Night King. What?
Yeah, it just seemed really forced to me, and it seemed too easy. It just seemed like she just, all right, I get, the whole, like, water dancing and she's, a faceless man, all that stuff. But she just walked by like 100 White Walkers and, he starts turning around, but he doesn't turn around in time. Like, come on.
It was a big sign for me.
The Starbucks cup?
No. Yeah, that one. But like somewhere in like early season 7 or season 6 or something, the storyline became Jon Snow going around going, the Night King is coming. The Night King is coming. It's like, I mean, like everybody else in the world, I went and read the Wikipedia about the character called the Night King, but like, you never explained who the Night King was. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And there was the confusion because there was the Night King and then the Night's King, who were two different people.
In the book,
right?
there's the legend of the Night's King. And like the show tried to like, I guess, kind of like make that. But they never explain it. All of a sudden, they just started calling this character the Night King. And it's like,
yeah, that is true. I didn't. It
just happened one episode, and I was like, I mean, I know what they're talking about because I read the books and I read the Wikipedias.
But they didn't really discuss it, right?
But there's just like one episode. It's like, we got to stop the Night's King, and it's like,
yeah, like who?
You're pulling a fast one on me right here. I know you do. I know what you're doing, show.
Yeah, exactly. And how many of those people would have actually, even knew who that was if it was so long ago?
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like it was really a well-told legend to them.
Right. No, it was just like, in the book, it's just like this like story that old Nan tells Bran, I think. Like, it's just like one of those stories.
Yeah. And Bran.
Bro, we could talk for hours and hours and hours of how disappointing that show ended.
Seriously, it was really rough. And that leads me to think, like, are you going to try and watch the spinoff, the Targaryen one?
I don't know, man.
This is my thing, right?
Let me tell you, like, I used to watch that show all the time. Like, I would, if I had nothing to do and I was just sitting and, like, there was nothing on TV, I'd be like, what's a Game of Thrones episode I really like? Let me pull up on demand and just, like, just watch it. And I haven't done that at all.
Yeah.
Since, like, every year I would rewatch every season up to the new season. Like, I haven't watched it at all since season 8 ended. At all.
I rewatched it when we decided to do Burning Wheel.
Okay.
Just for like kind of some source material and give me ideas.
Inspiration kind of stuff, yeah.
I didn't watch season 8. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm stopping. And even season 7, that was like while I was falling asleep type stuff. But yeah, for a long time, like you said, Game of Thrones kind of replaced The Office for me as like something I'm just going to throw on. And
you could just, really any, like season 1 through like 4, just like really any episode is just good watching. You know what I mean? You get something out of it.
The only episode, I'll still go back and watch. I don't think it's the Long Night. It's the one where Brienne finally gets knighted, and
that one's pretty good. Yeah,
just for that scene, it was so good to me that like I'll still go back and watch that because that was
even
such
that
a
episode.
great moment.
It kind of killed it for me because like I remember when I watched that episode that week, and I was like, oh, this is like goodbye to these characters. There's so many of these characters are gonna get fucked up next week.
Yep,
and it never happened. Like so, even that episode is kind of ruined for me in retrospect. Like. The bad taste just can't come out of my mouth for the entire show. Yeah. I can't even go back and watch season 1 with friggin' Ned Stark being awesome. Like I just can't do it because it just doesn't end well. All
because of 2 people destroyed something we invested 8 years of our life
into.
D&D, not the good D&D. You don't even deserve to be called D&D.
Yeah, right. The bad D&D. Ugh.
Yeah, that was definitely rough.
But you know what? That card game is fun.
Yeah, it did give us that. It led us to the Game of Thrones card game.
What's that company?
Fantasy Flight.
Fantasy Flight.
Okay. And they make a lot of great games.
I think so.
Game of Thrones, a bunch of other stuff.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know if you know this, but I think that they've come up like they have this card game system that they just attach different brands to.
Yeah,
their Lord of the Rings, the card game, is like the same basic system as their Game of Thrones, the card game.
Yeah,
is that right?
It's different themes, and I know I may be speaking out of turn here, but I believe they came up with the living card game system.
Okay.
Because you had CCGs and TCGs before, but living card games, like you knew what was coming in the box, you bought it, you were right. There was no randomness to it. I believe that was their thing, and that was the interesting thing with Game of Thrones for us, right? Because you didn't have to buy 100 booster packs to figure out, which there's value in that too. I like doing that. I like the element of surprise. Mm-hmm. But it was nice to kind of be like, all right, I know what I'm getting in this box. I could look it up, and if I want that card, I could buy this box.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's done now. They're not making any more
they're
expansions. Done? Yeah. We have a lot of catching up to do.
I'm sure we do, but like...
Yeah, it
was
hard.
That does make sense because, I mean, just what we're speaking about, Game of Thrones being crap at the end.
Probably even ruined the card game, you know?
Probably. I mean, the guy hasn't come out with the last book yet or the second to last book yet either, so...
Yeah, it was rough. But, the card game was amazing, and it's based off of the books, not the show. So, like, the artwork is different. It's not like...
Doesn't look really like the actors. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
That artwork on those cards is
amazing.
So cool.
It was amazing.
So cool.
Yep. And the system is a lot of fun. You have your plot phases, all that. It was a lot of fun. The first night we played it, we got really drunk.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Was that New Year's Eve? Was that the first time we played it?
It might have been.
Because I remember that. I remember getting really drunk at New Year's Eve playing that. Yeah.
We picked it up, we built our decks. I was so excited. I found this great system, and I did not win one game that night.
I remember that. I did
not win one
game. It's all coming back to me.
Yep.
Oh, man, because you were so excited to play, and you didn't win. I
don't even think I came close to win. It wasn't even, like, good games. I just...
I'm sure Allie won, like, 9 out of 10 games or whatever
And you know what it was, too? I think I started with... Did I start with the Martell deck? I might have started with a Martell deck, and that's like a complicated house to start with. And I didn't understand what the mechanics were supposed to be.
A lot of that game's pretty deep. It's a pretty complicated game.
Yeah, but that's what I like about it. There's a lot of every house has their own kind of, and you could play. There's like different styles you could play with each house, and
or
stuff
you could
like
just play the Targaryens and powerhouse through everybody. Allie.
We're gonna talk a lot of shit because she's not here.
Yo, just so the audience knows, Allie whips our ass at every game all the time.
Yeah, because you know what it is? You can't beat her because... And me and her are similar in this way. She's just like the extreme of it. If you do anything to fuck over her plan, she doesn't care if she wins after that.
She'll pout.
She will destroy you.
Yeah.
Like, even if she knows she's going to lose, she's going to take you down with it. She goes kamikaze.
Yeah, she does.
And I'm the same way, but to an extent. Like, it has to be... if I'm like about to win next turn, or you feel like clearly targeting me, I'll get mad and stuff like that. But I still want to win.
Right.
Yeah. So me and Mitch kind of learned early on that we're just gonna attack each other.
Yeah, we're just gonna attack each other and try to make ourselves not vulnerable.
Yep.
So Allie tries to attack the other one.
It got to the point where even when we did attack her, we didn't have to like apologize.
Yeah. We kind of like. hey, just so you know, like, this is the only option I have.
Yep.
And then you start losing a lot, and then you get vindictive. Or at least I get vindictive.
Yeah.
Here comes Allie. I'm coming for you.
Yeah, you gotta wait. Like I would wait till she was focused on Mitch, and then I was like, all right, here's my turn. Maybe she won't notice.
Maybe she won't notice.
Yep. Maybe I'll just do this, and she'll be so focused on taking down Mitch that I'll slide by.
Allie, this is all a compliment, by the way.
Yes. She is an amazing Game of Thrones player.
Amazing, and pretty much at all these board games we've been playing and reviewing too, she's pretty much kicks her ass at almost everything.
Yep. It's rough. Yeah, I definitely want to play again soon though.
Oh yeah. We have a backlog of how many
we keep going to Time War. That's
a
funny
buying
part.
Them and like we buy more than we play.
Yeah, you have a whole like bookshelf filled with games that like half of them we haven't even played yet, and we still feel the need to go to Time Warp and just buy new games.
It's like in 2014 or 15, me and Allie were like, oh, you know what? We're going to have a board game podcast in 2020. Let's start buying games.
Yep.
And not playing them.
It was foreshadowing.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Oh, man. Good thing it happened, honestly, because I don't know if I didn't have that, like if I didn't get into gaming and, I haven't been rapping a lot and stuff like that. I don't know what I would have done all quarantine, because for the most part I'm fine by myself.
Yeah,
like
I'm same.
Yeah,
same.
like I'm an introvert. Like quarantine, that was a vacation to me. Like that was I'm fine. I could not talk to people for 6 months, be completely fine.
Yeah.
So if I didn't text you, I apologize. But I just how
you,
I am.
Just doing you. Yeah.
But even once you took work out of the equation, it did something to me. It just made me realize I was like, is work? And I don't get me wrong, I love my job, but it was just like, is work all I have? Is that?
Well, I mean, especially that job, like having worked there myself, with you, it's such a social job.
Yeah.
So like it's like hanging out and working at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, and I don't. When I say that, it sounds like, oh, so they're not really working at that. No, it's hard work at that place. But like you're doing it with people around your age, with similar interests.
Yeah, and that's how you get through it. You have to have fun at that job, just because, it's, and like you said, it's the age group too. It's a younger crowd, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Almost every building I went to, I was one of the oldest people there. But yeah, and you develop. I mean, my best friends now, I think I met mostly all of them through AMC.
I met my wife there.
Yeah, there we go. It's just, oh damn, I said AMC. Sorry,
I noticed, but just roll through. Okay. Just roll through.
Yeah. All right. So it's definitely something I realize I kind of have to get back at, and the podcast definitely helps. Doing more and getting more into gaming definitely helps, because I fell off for a long time.
Yeah. Because like when you lost your work, not only did you lose your work, you lost your social aspect too.
Yeah, with the quarantine and all that stuff, and it was just it was, and even when things started reopening, I was too nervous.
Oh yeah,
I remember, was just way too nervous.
It was months into quarantine before like me and Allie texted you and was like, "You want to come over and play a game outside? Yep. Like, want to play Game of Thrones outside and go on a hike?" Like. We tried to keep everything that first time. Remember, you came over. We played outside. Like we tried to keep everything like
separated.
We dipped our toe into the hanging out thing, and then eventually we kind of like, okay, this is our group. We're gonna be safe around our group, and then now it's kind of whatever. We're still being safe, masks and everything, but
outside of pretty much our group and stuff like that. And that was the other really good thing that came out of it, is we started going hiking, which did a lot of good for me.
Yeah, that was fun.
We fell off, it gets hard, especially it was the four of us. So
it's hard anytime you have a routine and then something breaks that routine to get back into it. Like
exactly.
We were going on we were doing hiking for weeks, and then me and Allie went on vacation. I think that's what broke it.
Yeah, that's actually
we did a vacation down the shore with my family.
Yep.
And then it was just like sporadically after that, but it didn't become that routine again,
Yeah, we talked about it. It just never,
never solidified.
Happened. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get back to it.
Yes, absolutely. And, I think a lot of it came, we also, like, when you guys got back, we were focusing on the podcast a lot. So I think a lot of it was trying to get back into it and be like, all right, what are we doing with Burning Wheel, and kind of figuring out the whole switching from video to just sound, because if Burning Wheel, if we kept that video and Allie had to go back to work,
wouldn't be able to
it's
do
insane.
That. Yeah, she
like
wouldn't be
the
able to do
amount
that.
of time she has to put into editing that, because none of us know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
With like 2 different cameras,
but even if
mics,
anybody
all
else
that
knew
stuff.
how to do it, I mean, we all work now. Like,
yeah, exactly. It would have just been too hectic. So that was definitely like a good call before, we went back to work and all that stuff.
Yeah. It just wasn't gonna happen with all of us working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
It stinks because I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
Playing every Sunday, setting up the office with the tables and the cameras, and like, it was fun, and it was fun to watch us play too. But it was just so much work for Allie. Yeah,
but even if you watch the last episode, I think I discussed this with you guys. I kind of like it more now because you do things like you pull up the map so the audience can kind of follow where you are, stuff like that. Yeah. So there's still like that visual aids ultimately.
100%. I think it's going to work out fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have to record our first voice only episode, I think. Because even the stuff that's coming out now.
Oh, that's right. There was video.
There's still video. Yeah. I mean, we still filmed ourselves doing it. It's just.
It's just too much.
It's just too much.
It's just way too much.
Yeah. What made us film that? I forget.
What?
Whose idea was that to film? Was it yours or was that Allie's?
I think it might have been Allie's.
Okay.
We talked about filming, doing stuff like that, but
because you guys did that first episode of the podcast a year ago almost now. Yeah.
I think it was her idea. Yeah, because I definitely wouldn't have brought up filming it because I was so nervous about DMing my first game. I was like, if we film it, because originally we were just filming it for us, so we didn't have to take notes because my memory is terrible. So I could just watch back the episodes and stuff like that. And then we're like, we should post it. It was a lot of fun, and it came together a lot better than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Just for the system and the way it's set up, I didn't really know how it was gonna play out. And we all loved it, so it kept going.
Yeah. That game is a lot of fun. We got to get another session in.
I know. We'll have to figure that out and everything. Yeah, outside of that, we're looking to do like the merchandising and stuff like that, so
get some Burning Table shirts, some Big Deck Energy shirts.
Definitely.
Like this little patch on right here.
Yep.
Big Deck Energy. This is the uniform we have to wear every night we record now.
Yeah, I actually wore this while I was at work under my fleece.
That's funny.
So there was like one time where it was so hot with the mask and I almost took off my fleece and I unzipped it and I was like, nope, can't do that.
Damn.
I don't think they'll be too happy about me promoting here and stuff like that.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was interesting, but again, that's the importance of work-life balance, right? Because and I had a good day at work. It's not like anything crazy happened, but I had that like piece of me that was like, all right, 2 more hours, I get to go do the podcast,
right,
relax, and it worked out. So that's definitely important for anybody who noticed that too. You're not alone when you're in quarantine. If you felt like that, then you should definitely pick up a hobby. Like pick up something. You need something outside of work. And I know people always say, find a job that makes you happy. Like your happiness really shouldn't come from your work. Like
right. I mean,
yeah.
It's more like find a job that doesn't make you miserable.
Exactly. I think that's more fair, right? Find a job that you're capable of doing that doesn't drive you crazy.
Yeah.
And then what you do outside of work should be majority of your life. Like that should be what's important to you.
Yeah.
And again, I love what I do and it's a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people. But again, quarantine happens and I didn't know who I was because I was so dedicated to the job that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I haven't released a mixtape in like 3 years, and it just made me like really a lot of self-reflection happens, and I was like, all right, I need to get back.
Are we gonna reveal this now?
What?
That you're a rapper?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
that's like the second little hint that you dropped in this conversation, so now I got to bring it up.
This is the problem with freestyling is I don't have a format. So this is just like a normal conversation between me and Mitch.
All right, so let's go in there. What's going on with that?
So
is that over, or is that
no,
part of your past now, or is
it's
that
not over, right? So I thought a lot about it. I know, like, we had a couple conversations about this.
Yeah.
You know, I had a really bad. I was working on this mixtape, 24 hours. It's gonna be 24 tracks, 2-sided. First time I've ever done anything like that, and I lost everything with my phone. So all my notes, because I kept all my lyrics and my notes, stuff like that. So I only had what I already recorded.
Okay.
And like what I could memorize at the time. And the way I write is like sometimes I'll have like 15 different songs. I only have a verse to it, and I go back to it and stuff like that. And it just destroyed me. It really was kind of like so overwhelming. And there was obviously a lot of me being kind of self-conscious with getting older too, you know, like had my 30th birthday and I was like, you know, if I didn't make it yet, is there a point? And continuing to do it and stuff like that.
Like at some point you got to, not like you got to, but like I'm sure you like, oh, I'm not an angry kid anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was the other thing.
You know, new music should come from angry kids.
yeah, and that was the other thing I had to change. Because a lot of my music was I was a different person back then. It's not like I can't right now. There's stuff I could talk about. You know, my favorite songs of mine, a lot of them were like relationship type songs.
Okay.
Because one of my biggest inspirations was Joe Budden. So, and you know, his mood music tapes were amazing to me, and they helped me out a lot when I was younger. So a lot of stuff I did was that, but even in Bandit House, I was known as the angry rapper. You know, like I was
yeah.
So yeah, and you know, as I got older and I'm doing different things, it wasn't there as much. It became like harder to write and find the time to do it. That was the other big issue. But no, I don't think I'm ready to say it's over yet. You know,
well, I mean, you
know, my friend. Oh,
now you got a little bit of a platform. You know, on YouTube. You know, not that many people watch, but you know.
Yeah, this whole conversation started because they were like, "You need to do fantasy rap."
Yes.
Yep. And I was like, you know, I feel like if I do that, I'm going to completely destroy my credibility. I'm like, you know,
the genre is ready for the taking. It's wide open.
You know what it was? I heard I'm not going to, you know, blow up their spot, but I heard somebody on Instagram do some fantasy rap, and it was so bad that it made me, I was like, you know what? No, if people are already doing this, I'm just going to shit on them and just come out and mix, because it was so, and it was, you could just tell they were doing it for the view. It was just, I don't know.
And like,
it made me sick.
You don't got to go full fantasy either, right?
No, of course not. I mean,
I'm sure you noticed on that one video where we're answering questions, Allie snuck in Odin.
Yeah, I have a song called Odin. So
you literally have that's already fantasy adjacent right there. Like
exactly.
You already have one.
Yep. So it just and I thought about like doing things where like I wanted to write a song from like the perspective of like Norlos Lane. I thought about doing stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Like kind of like have the NPCs rapping, but I don't know if I could rap with the accent.
No, so, that might not be a good idea.
That might be too difficult. Yeah, that might be too difficult.
A little too gimmicky there.
Yeah, because even with the accents, to me, like that's one of the hardest parts of DMing, especially when I have to do female accents, because we know how that turns out.
We do.
That's like one of the hardest parts is like remembering and switching back and stuff like that. And even like DM help videos I watch on YouTube, that's a lot of what they say. They're like, don't try and overdo it. Don't give every character a unique voice. Just,
right.
Like the big ones, you know, you use a voice for, but outside of that, kind of, it's okay to use your regular voice.
Yeah, just like act a little bit. Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Acting doesn't necessarily mean do an accent. Just like be menacing or be sweet.
Yeah.
Or, you know, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it ended up being. But yeah, it's definitely not over. I'm just definitely focusing more on the podcast. One of the things that helped me out is a couple of my friends I used to rap with, and my producer, shout out to Luquan. He hit me up, yeah, and I had to hit him up. We're supposed to hang out soon.
Nice.
But you know, he sent me a couple beats, and it got me back into it.
There you go.
I was like, this is nice. I like this.
There you go.
So you know, I'm trying to do a little here and there, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna continue. I know I have like 14 tracks done for the last mixtape already. So I was like, you know what? Let me just try and like make a commitment of like, I'm going to do at least a verse a week.
Okay.
And if I could do that, which is simple, I'll at least be able to finish this. Like I'm not giving, like I have to finish this tape. I already freaking paid for it. So, you know, I have to finish it.
Is this the 24 tape? Now you're going to try to do that?
I'm going to try and just finish that up.
Awesome.
And then after that, who knows? Maybe it'll all be fantasy rap.
There you go. Why not? Rap what you enjoy.
That was definitely. Oh, and just so if you guys ever hear the song Odin, You'll hear like a roar at the end of the song.
Oh, that's Allie.
That's Allie. Yeah.
That was Allie's obsessed with Velociraptors phase.
Mm. And it came out amazing for the song. It was so much better than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, it was amazing.
I remember we were there. I remember being there that night. You were recording that, and like the guy who was the producer, he was like, "She's gonna do what?" And then she did it, and he was like, "Yo, that was really cool." And then
Yeah,
I was like,
"Yeah,
that was just really."
He was
funny.
like, "Do you mind if we sample that? We're gonna."
Yeah.
That's one take Allie. She did it in one try, I think, too.
Yep.
Most rappers can't even do that. See?
Oh shit. Velociraptor noises.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is that work or life? Rapping.
It's hard. See, I put that in the same category as gaming to me because it's something that it was never stressful for me. You know, the only time that rapping ever became stressful for me was like if there was drama within our group or something like that, and you know, or it was performing. You know, I had an issue with performing where, you know, I'm one of those people, like I'm a terrible dancer and stuff like that.
Okay,
so like things like stage performance aren't great for me. I love public speaking and stuff like that, but for some reason, like rapping in front of people, you know, if they weren't like, you know, at a house party, I'm fine.
Okay.
But, you know, just going into like, we performed at a college, and I remember that's the first time I actually felt like extremely nervous. It was like worse than, because I get really nervous for like interviews and stuff like that. It was 10 times that feeling. And it wasn't the first time I performed, but for some reason it was just kind of, you know, I never got used to performing.
Okay.
So that was probably the only time it felt like work. I was like, I have to do this. You know, it's a part of the thing.
I feel like that's an interesting conversation to have about work-life balance, because like something as simple as this podcast and gaming and tabletop gaming, that was like strictly in the life half of work-life balance.
Yeah.
But now, you know, you put yourself on a schedule. You want to do it once a week. You want to play the game. You got to do the review. Like, it's still part of life, and we have so much fun doing it. But it starts to creep into that, like, oh, this feels like work a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
you start looking at it as
and like you gotta stop that, because then it ruins it.
Yep. Definitely something that makes that easier is shout out to Joe, our producer, for, you know, reminding us when we forget to do timestamps and stuff like that, because it does get hard, you know, with us back at work now. But he's really good at like reaching out to us and being like, "Hey, you guys got this?" He uploads everything for us, so so yeah, it's definitely it's hard, but I don't see it crossing into, you know, like coming here doesn't feel like me going to my like career.
Right.
You know,
and yeah, I'm not trying to say like, oh, this sucks, like we gotta go do the podcast, but like,
yeah, we just have to be careful.
You just gotta be careful.
Yeah.
You know, you keep it in that side of your life. Keep it in the life side. Don't let it become work.
And that's, you know, and I think that's part of the reason we like still going to Time Warp too, now that I think about it, is it keeps that like that fresh feeling of, you know, like picking out a game, finding something new.
Yeah.
Shout out to Time Warp again.
Time Warp, best store,
yes.
Cedar Grove.
And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, doing the game reviews is probably like the most exciting, especially when we have like new people, like when Paulie and everybody came.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a lot of fun, especially like exposing other people to it who never, you know, I started really late in this stuff. I wasn't early into like Dungeons and Dragons or Magic or anything.
I mean, honestly, same for me and Allie.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I played Dungeons and Dragons a little bit in college, very, very little bit. And I didn't get into it. And then I forget. It was the three of us. That was that was like my first real game of Dungeons and Dragons, that when we played the two half elves.
Yeah.
And Allie DM'd the two of us that one session. You remember that in Jersey City?
I forgot about that. Oh man. I still remember the conversation where Allie got me into D&D.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. She just came up to me. She was like, "So hear me out before you make any judgments. I want to try this out, this and that. It's Dungeons and Dragons." And this was, I think, this was after Game of Thrones and all that stuff.
I'm about to say, we'd already been like every Wednesday playing a Game of Thrones card game until 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I already accepted the fact I'm a nerd now. So I already accepted that. So it was an easier transition.
Nerd angry rapper. Like.
Yeah, nerd angry rapper, exactly. So I was like, you know, all right, I'll try it out, this and that. And then once I realized what it really was, I was like, this is so much better than a video game to me.
Yeah.
Like the aspects, and I mean that's something else we saw, the benefits of gaming, just the what it does for your critical thinking, your creativity is amazing.
Yeah.
Problem solving, all that stuff. It's extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I have kids, I definitely want to get them into like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that when they're young, because it's so much better than, because people don't go out and, it's not like it used to be, right? Like you don't make phone calls because you don't have a cell phone. You ride to your friend's house and, there's a place where everybody always hangs out and you just kind of show up there. It's not like that anymore, but you could still, at least, even with like tabletop gaming, at least you have that in person, and I feel like that's why the younger generation is so socially awkward,
because they don't have any kind of interaction.
Yeah, all their interactions are like over the internet,
like digital. Yeah,
and it's rough. And again, I love video games. I'm not saying I don't, but it's just not the same to me, And those things are dangerous. I play Call of Duty sometimes, and I gotta turn everybody's mic off because I'm just like, oh, these fucking people. Like, you would not be saying this if you were in front of, like, yeah. It's like, honestly, you want to talk about racism? Go to a COD server and stuff like that. Like, they people just say and I don't think half the people even believe it. I think they're just saying it to be assholes.
Oh yeah, they're just trying to get a rise out of it. Yeah,
and, half the time it's like 10-year-old kids and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's just another thing. That wouldn't happen in Dungeons and Dragons when you're sitting in front of somebody and. So yeah, that's definitely, and that's ultimately why we wanted to start the podcast in the first place, right? To expand it and kind of get more people into it. I see it all the time. I mean, Vanity just told me that her husband got into it. So
that's cool.
And Dungeons and Dragons, yeah, wow. which surprised me.
That's another thing about Dungeons and Dragons. Like, you start like you kind of like let people know you're part of that community, and like you're into that stuff, and like. You don't realize how many people are as well. And they're like, oh yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. I played too. It's
definitely. And I would say you could definitely attribute some of that to Game of Thrones as well, right? Because that Game of Thrones, whether you like it or not, is nerd culture. Okay, like it's just nerd culture.
It's just that pop culture.
Yeah,
freaking adopted it. Yeah,
exactly. So even because I to give credit where credit's due, Lord of the Rings definitely helped with that, but I think Game of Thrones just took it to another level.
Yeah.
Of like everybody was into it. Like the most hood friends I had were the ones who like kind of told me, like, "Well, you gotta fucking watch it. Like, how have you not watched it yet?" And I'm
That's
like,
funny.
Like I was like, there's like dragons and stuff in it, right? He's like, "Yeah, it's awesome." I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try.
You're like, but no orcs, right? Like, I don't want
no orcs. As long as there's not orcs. They're like, what the fuck is an orc? I'm like, okay, good. Yep. It's crazy to think too. I almost didn't get into it. I almost didn't give it a shot, and then I ended up reading the books. The books were amazing. I loved the books.
Oh yeah, the books are amazing.
Yeah,
like the show is great, but then you read the books and you're like, oh, this is the real thing.
And you know what it was? I don't read fiction books.
Mm-hmm.
So before this, the only fiction book I think I read was The Alchemist, and I read that when I was still a teenager. I think. Yeah. Outside of that, it's just harder for me for some reason to read fiction books. But Game of Thrones, I was like, oh, this is
they're fucking page turners, bro.
You know what it is? I'm one of those people, I read really slow.
Yeah.
And
same.
I need to feel like I'm getting something out of it. So if I'm reading something that's like educational to me or something I'm interested in, it's a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just reading a story, I think especially when I was younger, I didn't see like what benefits that could offer you. It's obviously different for me now because there's a lot of benefits to even reading a fiction book.
Right.
But yeah, especially with Dungeons and Dragons now, build your vocabulary, come up with different concepts.
Just thinking like creatively. I'm sure it even helps with rapping and stuff, coming up with lyrics. Yeah.
Yep.
You're one of those people, though. You're like me. You're like, oh, man, what were those last 2 pages of that book? I got to go reread that.
Yeah.
I was zoning out. Sorry, book.
Even like if it's something I'm really, this might be weird. If it's something I'm really interested in, I'll get the audiobook too.
Uh-huh.
And I'll read along with the audiobook, and that helps me.
I don't think that's that weird because I've done that.
Oh, you've done it too? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's the only way. It definitely helps me retain the information better. But even with that, sometimes I have to go back and I'm just like, there's been times where I finished a book and if somebody asked me what that book was about, I couldn't even tell them. Like, I'd be like, I can give you, I'd have to look it up, so what I started doing is like I highlighted parts or I wrote notes and stuff like that for things I want to remember. I started recapping after like chapters. So I'm like, all right, what did I get out of this chapter?
You're like getting ready for the test. You're like
exactly, and that's kind of how I started treating it. I was like, I need to I need to feel like, these books are on my bookshelf now. If somebody asks me what this is about, and I'm like, oh, I read it, I have no idea. Like, what was the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that's something I do want to stay into. That's a hobby I got back into because I wasn't reading a lot.
You
before.
got any books that are targets of yours that you want to read soon, or anything that you've read recently?
Right now I'm reading another book about Norse. It's literally called Norse mythology.
Is it by Neil Gaiman?
Oh my god, I believe it's the Barnes and Noble's classic one.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I read Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology.
Yeah,
a couple years ago.
It's really good. Before that, the last book I read before that was the 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson.
Okay,
really
yeah.
Definitely some interesting things in there.
Crab Daddy, Lobster Daddy.
Yeah, Lobster Daddy. There was definitely some cool things in there. Yeah, and there's definitely. I want to try and read another like fiction series. I just don't know of any good. Like I want to read something obscure that like nobody's ever heard of and just kind of. So to just get more concepts. I think a lot of what I want to do now, I still want to, educate myself through reading, but I also want to use it for, doing more DM and like Burning Wheel type stuff and getting
absolutely.
new concepts. I mean, even like Game of Thrones, that's based on a lot of, War of the Rose. There's a lot of different things.
It's history.
Takeaway.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That happens with a lot of shows. Again, not necessarily a bad thing because I would never take anything away from Game of Thrones. The writing of it was amazing. Just a fucking show. Just season 8. That was the only issue.
So if anybody has made it this deep into this podcast, recommend a fantasy book or series for Skala to read.
Please
now,
do.
I'm not talking let's not talk like Hunger Games or Harry Potter. Let's talk about something a little bit more.
I do have to read the Hunger Games, though, actually.
They're good. They're good.
I told Allie you'd read the book. I had to get the new one.
But that's like something you could think of on your own. You know what I mean? Like somebody recommends some, like, let's get a deep cut here. Something really good.
Yeah, something I wouldn't have heard of.
Yeah,
it's kind of out there.
I'm expecting a comment. Somebody.
Yeah, hopefully people are still watching at this point.
Yeah. This loose, rambling conversation we've been having.
Yeah, and if people aren't watching, Allie's never allowed to miss a podcast again.
Yep. Oh shit, man. That's funny.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of that, I would say, we don't have any game reviews for. Again, it was such short notice with us getting back to work, so we didn't really have time to review any games. But we will get definitely back on that. Burning Wheel 2.
Burning Wheel, yeah. New episode should be coming out pretty soon. A voice only with the map on the screen episode kind of thing format.
We're not going to give you a day for that though, because again, like we said, Allie's the only person who knows how to edit it, and she has a lot going on with work now. We're all getting back in the groove,
trying to figure out that work-life balance.
Exactly. But it will come out. We're not, giving up on Burning Wheel or anything like that.
No, not at all. And if we give up on it, we're only going to give up recording it. We're not going to give up playing it. So,
yep.
Just kidding. What else? Oh, I got a question for you.
Yep.
Sci-fi. You into sci-fi?
See, it depends to me. It's really weird, right? When I was younger, I've never even watched the Star Wars movies, right? It's just not something I was exposed to really young. It was more like Lion King, stuff like that.
Okay.
I didn't really get into Star Wars, even like superhero movies, stuff like that. I blame my mom for that. We had like when we had like family movie nights, it would be kind of like horror movies and stuff like that.
That's cool.
So sci-fi is something, but then I think the first, I'm trying to think, sci-fi movie I saw ever was like Predator. It might have been one of the Predator, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Like this is awesome. So I did end up getting into it eventually. I didn't watch all the Star Wars movies, but I want to. And there's some stuff on Netflix. I can't think off the top of my head, but there's some like good, I like the idea of not knowing. That's one of those things that like, I know it's really fantasy, but it's also just the idea of like, we don't know that the universe is so big, something like this could exist and we would have no idea.
Yeah. See, like I was like a sci-fi kid.
Oh yeah.
So like, we talk about getting into like fantasy and stuff. I really didn't get into like fantasy and D&D until last couple years, probably like you did. I liked Lord of the Rings movies and everything, but like I was more of a sci-fi kid. I was more of like, I was like the Alien franchise, the Halo franchise.
Alien franchise was awesome.
Yeah. Oh my God, those movies are great.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think as I got older, I got way more into sci-fi. It's definitely something I'm still interested in. It's just when I was younger, I never, and even I still have this weird thing with like superhero movies, where I'm probably gonna get hate comments for this, but I just don't see the point because to me they all have the same ending. Like for the most part, they all have kind of the same ending. You know what's gonna happen. It's too predictable for me. I get the appeal to it for like a younger audience and kids and stuff like that, but I don't understand like the 40-year-old people who are coming in and stuff like that unless you follow that your whole life. So I think that's what I'm missing is like I didn't grow up on it.
Peter Parker turns into dust and you're like, bro, he's coming back next year. Come on, man.
Yeah, we know he's coming back, right? You know that. So that's the thing. I think even that when I tell people that, they're like, so what do you watch? Stuff like that. To me, it's just I don't want to know what's happening. That's the main thing. I watch a lot of thrill. I watch a lot of crime stuff too.
Okay.
If you looked at my Netflix, you'd probably think I was a serial killer because I literally have a category. It's like because you watch Dexter, because you watch this. Yeah, I'm really into stuff like that. Documentaries too. I like dark stuff. I think I'm one of the I don't want to say only people out of my friend group that actually watch The Leftovers.
Oh, what a good show!
It was amazing, but I was so bad at explaining it, so I couldn't get people into it. They were like, so what is it about? I'm like, oh, it's the most depressing thing you'll ever see in your life.
See, like, I would call The Leftovers like sci-fi.
Yeah.
See,
that's a good
like,
point. It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's my kind of sci-fi, that kind of like slow, like almost kind of fantasy element that like it's almost like your life now, only some little piece of technology makes things different. Or you know what I mean?
Something different or something happened. There was an event that happened. Yeah. That I'm definitely into. I liked a lot. The Leftovers was an amazing.
That show is amazing, devastating show.
Yeah,
nobody watched it. So like,
I know, and that's the crazy part to me because again, it's just if you're not into that, I guess it'd be hard. And again, I'm terrible at explaining. It's all just like, oh, it's really depressing. It's just about if the world.
Yeah, it's like you should watch this show. It's really depressing.
Yeah, like you will not be happy for literally the entire time you're watching it.
But then there'll be that moment where you're just like, oh.
Yeah, it was the characters were amazing. It was so well written. The concept was amazing. And it was realistic. And that's the thing too. It's like sci-fi, but they have this goes back to the same thing with D&D for me. It's the reactions are realistic. Like it's how I would imagine people would react in that situation. And that's what I like. If it's too much, like if we're just walking into it and this is how the world has been already and I can't relate to it, it's not as interesting to me. So I definitely like shows where you see the event happen and then you see how people adapt to it. I watch a lot of weird shows like that. The Zoo is another like obscure one. It's literally like animals get really smart and they like take over humans. And it's like this war between Fallen Skies, I think it's called. It's like an alien one.
The animals get smart and they like go to war with the humans. Is that what
they
you're
just start running shit? Yeah, like they're.
That's one of my favorite concepts because I mean, I'm not really a big Rick and Morty guy, but like one of the first episodes of Rick and Morty, they put like a helmet on their dog, and the dog becomes smart and can talk, and the dog just like wakes up its owner in the middle of the night and is like, where are my balls?
That is hilarious.
Where are my testicles? Where are they? It's like
I wish. Oh man, sometimes I wish animals could talk. Like I just wish they could communicate with us. I mean, even like my cat, and I know interesting fact about cats. It's like they don't meow to each other. That's only for humans.
Really?
Yeah, that's just how they try and communicate to humans. So like cats don't like if they were alone, they wouldn't be meowing at each other. They communicate in other ways. So that's always been, and that's why I like cats because they're kind of like, in some ways they're way smarter than people think they are. And it's like I love dogs too because dogs it's always unconditional love.
It's always
it's cats
even
are not
when it's
like
like
that.
Anger and biting. It's like unconditional love immediately. After
exactly. That. Cats they look at you as their equal. Like you're never going to be their owner.
They're equal or they're lesser. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Those are your options pretty much. I know people who've had cats for 8 years and their cats hate them. And it's hilarious. Luckily, that's never happened to me. But I did have when I was younger, I had a cat named Bo, and we got her from like the family was definitely abusive and stuff like that. And they told us that. So luckily, so we kind of knew it. But it was such a cute cat, and I remember literally my entire childhood. I maybe saw this cat like 3 times. It would just run from under one bed to the other bed. Like you can never touch it.
Aww.
Yeah, and then I had my other cat, Charlie, who was like the size of a dog, just overfed, did everything wrong with that cat.
But you know what?
Yep.
Like, there's companionship, you know, with
Yeah.
that animal, even though like barely had a relationship, it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah,
There's
it's
some
weird,
sort of,
and
like-
that's when I realized I'm kind of weird with stuff like that too. It's like I can go to like a funeral with somebody I'm close with and not cry.
Mhm.
I don't know why. Like, you know, it's very rare that I cry. I don't know if it's just like the social aspect that I feel like I shouldn't, or what it might be.
Yeah.
But like we had like a kitten like die in my backyard, and I broke down. It was
No shit, really?
I was even my mom was like scared because she hasn't seen me crying probably since I was a kid. I was bawling in my backyard, freaking burying this thing in my backyard, like digging the grave. It was so rough, and that, you know, after, you know, I kind of went through mourning for the cat and all that stuff. And I only knew this cat for like 3 days.
Oh.
We just found it. The mother left it, and you know, they usually leave their cats because they're sick.
Right.
So we knew it was sick. I don't know. It was one of those things where I, you know, like the human savior. I wanted to save it, and it just didn't work out. And it just
That's the saddest
broke
thing
me.
I ever heard.
Yeah, that was terrible for this podcast. I'm sorry, everyone. Yeah,
No, but you know what? I get that feeling. Like, I don't have any like real life examples, but like, you know, watching a movie, right?
yep.
I haven't cried watching a movie, you know, in however many years.
Yeah.
But like, I remember being 13 years old watching, or 15 years old watching I Am Legend, and then when the dog dies, I'm like,
Yeah, it's
I ain't
rough.
crying. Like,
It's rough.
you kill a dog in a movie, I'm gonna get a little emotional. I'm gonna get a little misty eyed.
Yep.
You kill like a person, I'll be like, they probably fucking deserved it, to be honest.
Yeah, they're human. They did something at some point. You
They
know?
did something.
I think that's what it is too, right? It's just like, you know, that's the thing with animals. Like, yeah, like we have like consciousness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if animals don't, but even like cognitive thought, right? Like it's good and bad. Like animals are like, it's because, you know, they're innocent because they're just doing what they have to do.
Right.
Like that's, you know, they don't do it maliciously. It's just, that's how they're programmed.
Yep.
I think that's definitely a part of it too. Yeah, it was definitely. I think the last movie I remember. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Instinct with Anthony Hopkins.
No.
Oh, it's an amazing movie. I think it came out in like the mid '90s or something. It's with Anthony Hopkins, Cuba Gooding Jr., and he plays. Anthony Hopkins plays this kind of wildlife like photographer, I guess, and he's like in Africa and he's studying these gorillas, and he has a family. He ends up getting so close to the gorillas that he doesn't go back to his family, and he starts living in the jungle
With the gorillas?
with the gorillas. Yeah, they eventually like kind of take him in and stuff like that, and he's allowed to hold like the children, all that stuff. And then, you know, I'm gonna start crying. No, you know, one of the gorillas like gets shot. They're getting hunted, stuff like that. And he goes crazy and like kills all these people because it's like trying to protect the gorillas, and he gets locked up. And then
Kill
Cuba
one of
Gooding
his
Jr.
family.
is like the psychiatrist who's trying to get him off and stuff like that. It was
Gotcha.
and just the way they talked about, you know, like humans and animals and the relationship we have and what we're doing to the world now, it really got to me. It was just like such a even at a young age that was such a. Now when I watch it, I get the same thing. Like I don't cry, but I get that feeling where I'm like, hold it back, shove it down.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, not to say that there's also this whole other side where like animals are animals, like, you know what I mean? Like not one of my favorite. What a terrible thing to say, but like this makes me think of. You ever see the movie Grizzly Man?
No.
All right, it's about this guy who went every year. He'd spend a summer in this like natural grizzly bear wildlife reserve type area in like Alaska or something like that, and like did every, you know, he was a bit of a weirdo, but like did more to protect their habitat, spread information about them, like loved these grizzly bears, loved them. And he would go there, live there for months every summer. A plane would drop him off and a plane would come and pick him up. Just some guy.
Oh, was that in the wilderness?
Yeah, no, like he lived for months in the wilderness. And like the 12th or 14th time that he did it, when they just ate him. They just fucking ate him.
You ever see that video of like the guy who's like running towards the lion and the lion's running back? They hug. This is gonna sound terrible, and I'm sorry to the guy. I always wanted just a lion to attack, because I'm scared people are gonna think that's normal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're never gonna have that relationship with it. I'm
like,
saying if
okay,
you take care
with
of them,
a cat
you can.
and a dog, like
Yeah, exactly. outside of that, like you're not supposed to have that with wild animals. You know, it's not how it's supposed to be. Princess agrees.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Princess
She's
agrees.
saying, don't go hang out with no grizzly bears.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Cats
gonna
and
eat
dogs
you.
only.
15 years.
Yep.
They may be your best friend.
And you know, I'm somebody who I wish I was more like survivalist than I am.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I love camping. I want to go camping more. You know, I want to do through hiking, stuff like that. But at the same time, you know, I'm not going to try and hug a bear. I'm bringing a bear spray with me.
Be be smart about it.
Yeah.
You know, just because you hanging out with a bear for 15 years don't mean that it didn't get enough salmon that 16th year and isn't going to eat your ass. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's just
That's funny.
That is funny.
Poor guy. Rest in peace, grizzly man.
Oh man, I gotta watch that now. But
it's so
man,
sad.
It's so true though. You know, like you make these connections, and I think that's just a part of humanity. It's like we want to feel more animal at times. You know, we want to,
or you project human stuff onto the animals. You know what I mean?
Like you know, and it's even coming down to like naming them. Like they in your head, you have this kind of idea of who that is.
Right.
Like you don't really know. You don't know how they feel about it. This and that. You know, your cat or your dog can fucking hate their name, and there's no way for them to tell you.
Allie and I have assigned an entire personality, an accent, and an ethnicity to our dog. Okay?
No, that is accurate though.
Our dog is a Russian spy.
Yes, we know that for a fact. That's different.
Just imagine him being like, "What the hell are they freaking talking about?"
Yeah, it's like, wait, so are you not my real parents? Why am I the only one in this family with an accent?
Yeah.
What is happening? It's
that's funny.
It's great though. I mean,
I'm glad we kept everything on topic as far as board games.
Yeah, if you came here for gaming, you're welcome. You know,
Yeah. This is the episode for board games only.
Yep. Jesus. Oh man. Yeah, it was definitely. So, what other benefits of gaming do you think they are? So we talked about it a little bit. We talked about critical thinking, right? We talked about building your imagination, stuff like that. I'm trying to think if we forgot.
Socializing, man.
Socializing, yeah. Building, and definitely building a bond with your friends that you're not going to get from, you know, just being in the same party on a video game.
It's creating something together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know you know. Shout out to Casey because every week we shout out to Casey. Allie and I and Casey are like working on kind of like, we've been toying around with this story we've been thinking about writing for years now.
Yeah.
And like the Burning Table scratches a lot of the same kind of itches. You know what I mean?
I can't wait to read that. I really want to read
that. I know. I know we keep talking about that. I don't know if the world is ready for that one yet.
Yeah.
But like, it's a game, but it feels like you're writing something. It feels like you're creating something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, and you're doing that in a social way too.
Yep. And honestly, that just made me think of something. The feeling I get after finishing like a session of like Burning Wheel is the same feeling like after I record
at the studio.
And I'm going home and I'm just like, oh, that felt good. Like I want to listen to it again now. I want to do this and that. Like there's just that kind of sense of accomplishment that you get afterwards.
It's weird because you're walking this line between like, and this is like anything that's D&D or D&D adjacent. So any really RPG that you play, it's like you're walking this line of playing something and creating something.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
then, like you go to the studio, you rap, you're creating art. Burning Table is a game, but it's also a game telling a story that nobody's ever told before.
Yep.
That's our story. Those are our characters. And even if they're based on things or they're derived from something, it's still, at some point, it's completely original. And we're creating it. That's
exactly.
Art,
very, very good point. Because no matter how many campaigns you're in, no matter how many servers you're on, you're never going to know what a character is going to do.
Yeah.
Like even as like another player, like if I played every single D&D campaign with Mitch, like it's different characters and he's going to play them differently. And there's different situations, different worlds, stuff like that. And it really forces you to kind of, think differently and kind of have like a diversity of thought.
Absolutely.
That I definitely didn't have before, playing D&D or Burning Wheel or any of that stuff. It was even the idea. I like the idea of coming up with like the backstory, but even like when I was coming up with NPCs, I was a little nervous at first because I was like, all right, I need to make something that's going to be interesting to the players to keep them in that. Like every YouTube video I watch, it says you need to have at least a couple NPCs that they're going to want to keep around. Because if not, it's just them going through the story and nothing really matters. They're not going to care about it as much. Even that was, once I understood, like kind of, an outline. I mean, I imagine it's like for a writer, like when you're first trying to write your book and you're like, all right, well, I need an idea and it just seems so far away. It seems so far away until you actually like get into it and you just hammer down and do it. And it still feels great. Every session is the same, like I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And it's just kind of,
and it's really cool because you bring the plot, like that's your half of it. But like half of the story is also like the way these characters interact with each other.
Yep.
Like a huge part of the story so far has been Thea and why am I forgetting my character's name? Levi. Thea and Levi interacting and figuring out how to do what they're supposed to do with their with her personality, really.
Yeah.
In this world that they're in this country that they're in. It's like that's been a huge portion of the story, and that has nothing to do with any of the plot. It just has to do with the characters that we've come up with and them reacting to each other and to the world.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing. Yeah, if you just been on the edge and you've been thinking about playing D&D or Burning Wheel or anything like that, now's a great time for it.
Really
be
is.
safe.
Really is.
Because you can play online, stuff like that. I would recommend definitely for your first time, find a group of people that are willing to try it with you and stuff like that, and do it in person.
I mean, but if you don't have that community around you, if you don't have you don't have friends that are willing to do that, I think that, I know that Allie knows a ton of people.
Yeah,
she plays with,
and she posts games in the Discord server.
Yeah,
which you can find on YouTube as well.
If you're listening to this and you want to try something out for the first time, I'm sure we have links down in whatever, like you said. Go to our Discord server and just ask about one. We'll find a game for you. We'll play with you, even probably.
Shit, I'll make one up. Yeah, I can do a Burning Wheel one. A Burning Wheel one shot wouldn't even be hard to do.
Yeah,
it's less intricate than D&D. And
I know
stuff
Allie
like that.
wants to play Blades in the Dark.
Yeah,
she's been thinking about.
Yeah, so if it's something you're interested in, DM us or drop a comment, and we'll definitely we'll put together a one shot or something like that. You guys can play with us, all that stuff. We'll teach you. And again, we're not the be all end all when it comes to any gaming or reality.
Oh
so,
yeah,
we're still learning.
At all.
Yeah, we're still learning stuff like that. But to us, it's more about the role playing and having fun and stuff like that.
Really, we have no right having a podcast about this stuff because we're like novices as far as I think.
Yeah,
it's just fun.
The only thing that started this podcast is we don't seem like the typical like D&D people.
Yeah,
that was our whole thing. And I feel like every episode we kind of have to tell people like, yeah, we don't actually know if we're doing this right stuff. I think the closest to that is probably Allie because she's been in so many campaigns and she's dealt with it a lot more. So she definitely has a good grasp on like D&D and stuff like that.
100% she does. Yeah.
But even like Burning Wheel, I have no idea. We're not even using like half the mechanics. But again, it does say to pick and choose what mechanics you want to use.
Yeah, but that's like half of the RPG experience. It's kind of like you make it your own.
Exactly. Just try it out. Especially. It doesn't matter your age.
No. Like
I said, I got into it like really late, and that's one of my biggest regrets. Like I wish I would have started something like this earlier. If I was in Dungeons and Dragons earlier in my life, I probably would have stayed out of a lot of trouble too. That's the other thing. I think a lot of my childhood and getting into trouble was just from my thoughts were different. I didn't really have anything after, I had like sports and stuff like that, but it just wasn't enough for me.
I couldn't imagine playing Dungeons and Dragons in high school.
Really?
I couldn't. I could imagine myself doing it. Mm-hmm. I just don't know where I would have found it.
That's the thing.
You know what I
mean? I was never. I didn't really know what it was till I got older.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't. And I think a lot of that comes from the community feeling like they had to stay hidden because
I think so too.
Being bullied and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because before things like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, there was definitely a lot of this negative connotations tied into if you're playing D&D, you're a loser and stuff like that.
Yeah, like D&D specifically. Like when I was growing up, like the idea of D&D was like the comic book guy from The Simpsons kind of. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just saying like how wrong I was. Like
Yep.
I wish I got into that stuff earlier. I just don't have any idea how I would have.
Yeah, it just
I can't
wasn't
think
exposed
of
to
one,
it.
Like, I can't think of being in high school, like, going around asking people if they want to play D&D. Are you crazy? Like, not where I went to high school.
Yes, same, honestly. I was definitely focused on other things back then.
Exactly.
But yeah, if I was exposed to it,
I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I might be full of shit. If I might not have been mature enough in high school to be willing to like swallow my pride and be like, I'm actually enjoying this.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in high school, you're scared about being popular and stuff like that.
And you're scared about like, exactly. You don't want to be seen liking the wrong thing.
Yeah, but now you could do that. You know why? Because all you have to say if somebody calls you nerds, like, did you watch Game of Thrones?
Then you're a fucking nerd too.
Yeah, same thing with anime. Like, there's a huge anime community now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't call me a nerd for playing D&D if you're, watching anime. That's
these
that's
kids
adult
now,
cartoons.
They run around like they're on animes with their hands in their.
Oh yeah. There's even like a whole clothing line. I see it all the time. With,
like, listen, when I was in high school, like you went into Hot Topic and like, it was like it does not look like Hot Topic looks now.
No.
It was about like punk bands.
Yeah.
And, like, piercings and you know what I mean, like it was like
and random sex toys
scattered
throughout it. It's so
now
weird.
it's like My Hero Academia merchandise and like Harry Potter stuff, and I'm like, okay, it's a little different.
Yeah, things changed for the better, honestly.
100%,
definitely for the better.
100%.
And that's what this is about. Like we definitely want to build the community, and we want people to be able to have the same experiences we're having. And I guess that's another thing that ties into work-life balance. If you don't have any like hobby, this isn't something you need to be like this. You need this IQ to be capable of doing this. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. The one thing I will say is if you are like currently socially awkward, like try to get into a group or at least start playing with a friend of yours and go into the same campaign together so you're not alone. But again, there's every single DM I could imagine has had experience with new players before. So, and 100%. They've been a new player, so they know what it's like. Even our first experience, they were really friendly, and they kind of talk you through it. They're not going to be like, you're not role playing good enough, or
I was about
you're messing up the mechanics.
D&D is not like this community of like, oh, you suck at D&D, get out of my table. Like it's
exactly.
It's like everybody's gonna help you be the best D&D player you can, because that's gonna make the best D&D game. And it's not just D&D, it's any kind of RPG or anything like that.
Yep.
It's everybody's trying to have the best experience they can. Everybody's gonna hold your hand until you get a little more open, until you get a little bit better at it,
Yeah, I mean, the only time I think you'll get backlash is if you're doing some vampire ass shit.
Yeah,
honestly.
some VAS.
Yeah, or if you have main character syndrome. If you're in a campaign with me and you have main character syndrome, I'm gonna call you out, and I'm just letting you know, because that's the worst thing. You ruin the game for everybody, and especially if you have new players in your game, who don't have experience. Like, it's hard enough for them to try and say something or jump in. You should be kind of helping them. Be like, hey,
that's on the DM, I think, to control that
definitely
main character syndrome.
Yeah,
because like
I
mean,
can
if somebody
understand how
has
it'd be
that
awkward, but
naturally, it's like all right, you gotta understand. It's like it's not their fault. This is them living out their fantasy.
Yeah.
Now as the DM, you gotta like rein it in a little bit.
Yep.
Now if somebody is uncontrollable with that with that VAS or that main character syndrome, then it's kind of like, all right, time to confront you about this. But
I think if you're just playing your character, that's one thing. But if you start like cutting off other players and stuff like that, then that's a little different. Somehow we managed to do this, Mitch.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, it's already 10:14. So I'm gonna do a quick shout out. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. All right, so Dice City Games DC on Instagram. They have a game store in DC. If you're in the DC area, definitely check it out. They do. I mean, obviously with COVID, there's not as many tournaments as there are, stuff like that. You got to be safe, but support your local game stores. I looked through their Instagram in the store, and there was some really. They also have a lot of like retro. Like I think I saw a Nintendo 64 there, which I would be willing to. I don't care. Like I'll drive to DC to get a Nintendo 64.
Yeah, I'm about to say Mario Kart 64. Play some Super Smash. Like
I mean, they have a lot of cool stuff in there. They have this like giant plush like a D20 I saw that looked amazing. And they're really big in like the Magic community. Like they have a lot of stuff. Like they do the individual cars. There's actually let me just check here. So Magic set called Zendikar Rising coming out, and they'll have plenty of take-home pre-release kits for that.
What's the name of the store?
Dice City Games DC.
Dice City Games DC.
Yep.
DC is one of those towns where, like, me and Allie, you know, a couple of times we've kind of like, oh, let's go do a weekend there. Like, you know, we like to walk around. So maybe we'll hit that one up when the quarantine, you know, lets up a little bit.
Yeah, I was close to there when I went on that training team.
Okay.
And stuff like that. The one thing I will say about DC, and anyway from DC, this is not on you. You know, it's weird how big the homeless community is in DC.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
It's like, isn't this like where like everybody is? Like, this is our...
It's like crazy. One of those cities where it's kind of like everybody goes in during the day and everybody leaves during the night.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It had this like weird vibe, but it's the area it was beautiful and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a good place. So if you're in the DC area, check out Dice City Games.
Dice City Games DC. Very cool. Very cool.
All right. I think that's pretty much it. Up. Yeah. Any last comments? We got like 10 minutes.
Hey man, just let your games be your games. Let your work be your work. Keep them separate.
Yes.
Find that balance.
Work-life balance. Even if it's not gaming, you know, if you have a family, make time for your family.
Oh yeah.
Don't make it all about work and stuff like that.
But you got to find time to do what makes you happy, you know?
Yes.
You got to find that time, or else you're just going to be miserable.
Yeah, and if you're in a relationship, don't be scared to try, and if they've never tried it before, like, hey, do you want to come and
share your hobby? Yeah,
absolutely. Exactly. I think, what was it saying? Couples that game together, stay together.
Couples that game together, stay together. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's true, right? If the fun you're having with your significant other, then you know that's counterbalancing a lot of the conversations you're having that are stressful about how you're, especially now, like how you're going to pay the rent or when are we going back to work, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You know, you're sharing that experience together instead of just having to kind of be like, oh, how is D&D, and they don't really know what D&D is, and you know, just try it out. Definitely, I think that's an important part of relationships is you know. Sharing each other, or at least understanding each other's interests and things like that.
And the community is out there, even if you don't have somebody next to you. You know, you could. It's not that hard to find.
It's really not, especially now.
If you go on Reddit, if you go on Discord, if you go on Facebook, there's Facebook groups. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I think it was last podcast we talked about a lot of there's so many different avenues you could use.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely just get out there and try it. Like I said, Magic U server is open, and we have the link and to our Burning Table Discord. On our YouTube channel. So check that out.
Come join. Come find a game. If anybody wants to play something, put it out there. If anybody wants to host something, put it out there. We're all players too. We're all looking for games constantly. One shots, ongoing games,
absolutely, and
voice games, play by posts.
The server is really big too. So if you want to post, like, you know, Allie does that a lot. She posts games in the server, and people will just freaking respond to it, be like, oh, I'm interested, and then all you have to do is come up with the time, place, and, you know, actual story, I guess. But
Allie's been really big into this new game on Steam. It's a video game, but it plays more like a tabletop RPG. It kind of plays like Donner Dinner Party a little bit.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, it's called Among Us, and I don't know the actual like mechanics of it, but it's pretty much like figure out who is the person that doesn't belong in the group and kick them out or kill them. But you do it with a video game instead of like a board game.
Be honest, does she play it with a Western accent? Does she yell at the TV with the Western accent?
Bruh, she plays it till 4:00 in the morning. I'm sleeping, so I don't even fucking know.
You got like work in 3 hours.
Yeah, it's like I gotta get up, but no. But I haven't played it yet. But she has been singing its praises, so that's something that we'll probably talk about in more detail next week. We'll make Allie talk about that. You know, she'll review Among Us next week. That's a promise.
Right. I think that's pretty much it for us. We will see you all next week.
Yep. Don't forget to check us out on all our different social media platforms, all the ones that Skala said at the beginning of the video. We're not going to make him say them again.
No, because
we're on all of them.
We're on all of them.
We're on all of them. Instagram, Twitter. You know, check us out. It was great talking with you, bro.
Absolutely.
You know, I think we did all right without our
for a freestyle, right?
Sure, why not? You know,
hopefully Allie thinks so too, so we don't get beat up.
Yeah, it didn't feel like an hour and a half, so, you know, must have been good.
All right.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.